Yo, dog, you know what it is, dog. Big up yourself, bruv. You done know Drizzy Drake, dog.
Yeah, you know, I mean, chilling, man. You know, I just been like vibing out, you know, Carter 4 and store. That's it.
Yeah, you know what it is? Luxury, cosmic lifestyle. What the fuck you dummies that still in the fish? Guys aren't getting rinsed out like this. Come on, dude. That is fucking basic, dog.
Don't have the keys. Ask the guy inside. Who? The Secret Service. They're right in the door. What?
Drake debuted as a rapper in 2006 when he released his first mixtape, Room for Improvement.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
But apparently, he felt he had room for improvement in the identity department as well, because throughout his career, he's gone on to fake a slew of different accents, personalities, and cultural backgrounds, all in an effort to stay at the top. All while maintaining a terrible case of arrested development, even up to this day at his big age of 37 years old. And honestly, one of his newer songs, Search and Rescue, in hindsight sounds like a huge cry for help and admission of arrested development. In the past 18 years since Drake first became a rapper, he's slowly morphed into the master of plagiarism, arrested development, fake accents, culture colonization, and stolen personalities. Remember when Kendrick Lamar said, "Let me put y'all on game, you not a colleague, you a colonizer, etc., and not like us"? Kendrick was probably sitting on that verse for years, because Aubrey Drake Graham, aka Drake, has been copying other people's entire likenesses and plagiarizing people's entire lives since day one of his career. Kendrick was probably waiting in the shadows for years to say you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. In the song Jimmy Cooks, Drake talks about how he started out in rap by barely getting any sleep so he could launch his rap career while still acting as the character Jimmy Brooks on Degrassi. He says, "Bleep a pigeonhole, I'm a night owl." This is a different one. Because he didn't want to be pigeonholed into being a teen Nick actor forever. And Degrassi said he'd be kicked off the show if he didn't stop focusing on his rap career. But now looking at the big picture of how Drake has turned out and plagiarized the lives of Black American artists and other Black artists from other countries, even to the point of faking terrible Atlanta, London, Jamaican, Trinidadian, and Bohemian accents, it feels like there might be a double entendre to I'm a night owl and a different mode. And we're not talking wheelchairs or Degrassi. Basically, it just makes me feel extremely uncomfy hearing Drake say this, and maybe I feel this way because it really rubbed me the wrong way when Scorpion came out and he literally said, "I'm light-skinned, but I'm a dark bleep" on Nonstop. That is just insane that he didn't get canceled all the way back then. Like, way to ruin a good song, because I really like that song, and when I heard that, before you think I'm just a Drake hater or something and call me another Kendrick fangirl, I was a fan of Drake for years, but after all this Millie Bobby Brown stuff that's come out, it was pretty much the last straw. It's not looking too good for Drake. The first couple million straws for me, before the straw that broke the camel's back, were all the accents I saw him fake for years. And if, like me, you're on the early end of Gen Z, you saw Drake's entire career and you saw British Drake, Caribbean Drake, Atlanta Drake, and now Smino Drake. But over the years, Drake wanted to do every single thing in his power to shake the mixed light-skinned teenager, drama actor, Jimmy Brooks persona, and he went full force into being an honorary Canadian member of Black American rappers. Specifically, rappers from Atlanta, Georgia. And a lot of American rappers actually accepted him into their group, at least back then. Now, what's so wrong with that? First, Drake is biracial, but he was raised by his non-Black parent, his mother, in Toronto, Ontario, because his parents were divorced.
I don't necessarily have the same stories as Wayne. You know, Wayne can sit here and tell you, like, I'm a gangster, you know, I can rap about that gangster life, you know? I can't do that. I can only rap about, like, my Jewish mom and, like, girls that I take on dates, and I'm proud of myself for that.
Now, take that information and fast forward to today, with Drake in complete culture vulture mode, 24/7, even to the point of putting a do-rag on Adonis. Drake, I'm also half white and have a 1/4 Black baby. And after these few months that he's been on this earth, I can assure you I'm in no hurry to purchase him a wave brush. Now, it would be one thing if Drake grew up wearing a do-rag and simply wanted to just share his culture with his son, but that is simply not the case, because I'm 1,000,000% sure that Drake never wore a do-rag growing up until well after he became a rapper and became friends with other Black people in the music industry and started stealing their likenesses. Now, if this do-rag gate was Drake's only offense in being a culture vulture, no one would even call him a culture vulture and no one would really even care. And everyone would just be like, "Oh, look at little baby Adonis, look at the do-rag. He's identifying with his Black heritage." But no, at this point, The list is endless of Drake copying black artists, and this is the reason why any little tiny thing Drake does, like putting a do-rag on Adonis, is immediately added to the dumpster fire and labeled more and more of Drake plagiarizing. Before we get into all the evidence and explain the Drake copycat iceberg, I'll jog your memory of this Not Like Us verse from Kendrick. Once upon a time, Once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homies still doubled down, calling us some slaves. Atlanta was the mecca building railroads and trains. Bear with me for a second, let me put y'all on game. The settlers was using town folk to make them richer. Fast forward 2024, you got the same agenda. You run to Atlanta when you need a check balance. Let me break it down for you, this the real challenge. You call Future when you didn't see the club. Hey, what little baby help you get your lingo up? What 21 gave you false street cred? Thug made you feel like you a slime in your head. Quavo said you can be from Northside. What 2 Chainz said you good, but you lied. You run to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. No, you not a colleague, you a colonizer. Now, when I first heard these verses, I immediately knew Kendrick won the beef. And you can imagine how happy I was to finally hear these lyrics, seeing that I've been saying Drake is a copycat, plagiarizing colonizer for years, whether he makes good music or not. Uber X the hidden hills, give me something I can feel.
I know you know that you wanna know that she thinks you know that you're on the phone, that she thinks you know that she wants you to know that I want you to know.
Whether Drake is doing an interview or recording his next song, he's notorious for changing the way he speaks and imitating actions and mannerisms from other cultures that are not his own, no matter how much he tries to convince you that it's okay for him to do this. I actually really liked the album Scorpion when it came out, but when he started talking about, I'm light skinned, but I'm still a dog. That really made me raise an eyebrow. I'm a bill printer. He also randomly started talking about being in gangs and having mob ties. Caught in the mob and I got ties, lot of ties, lot of ties. And then people started calling him hardcore Drake. Like when he was all of a sudden like Louis bags in exchange for body bags. And statements like these probably prompted the first song in the rap beef like that. Because basically they're like, Drake, are you really like that? But after all the recent Drake allegations, maybe he is a mob boss because it's not looking really good. But today's video is focusing on the culture colonizing side of things, not P. Diddy stuff. In an interview with BBC's One Extra Rap Show, Drake admitted he had an American accent at the beginning of his career, but it was only because he felt like he needed to sound American to get famous. Oh, poor him. But how does that explain him having a fake Caribbean accent in one of his biggest songs? I need a one dance. Oh yeah, because Drake wanted us to believe, for the time being, that his half-black side was West Indian, because that type of music was really popping off at the time. And no, Drake's dad is not West Indian. But first, let's go over all the accents Drake has used throughout his entire career. After all these accents, we'll get even more into his colonization. In 2009, Drake introduced his Southern accent. Yes, Drake's father is from Memphis, Tennessee, but that does not justify anything because you don't see me faking a St. Lucian accent just because my mom grew up there. Drake began using his fake Southern accent in the song Uptown featuring Bun B and Lil Wayne. This song is on his mixtape So Far Gone. Drake's accent in this song is basically a Lil Wayne cosplay, and it's pretty cringy. A year later, Drake released his debut album Thank Me Later. In the songs Fancy and Miss Me, he shows his fake Southern accent again, and I'm talking about AAVE Southern accent, by the way, not country Southern accent. Not like a Keith Urban Southern accent. In Fancy, he says, but they go with the but they go with the clutch that you put your lip gloss in. And basically the entire song Miss Me is in that same accent. And I hope that you miss me a little when I'm gone. Like, just think about how he says gone. I hope that you miss me a little when I'm gone. Like, why does he have to say gone like gown in Miss Me and lip glouse? Not to mention the first line, tell me what's really going on. Drizzy, back up in this thing, I'm ready, what's happening? Was first said by Shawty Lo in D4L I'm the Man from 2005, and then on Soulja Boy's What's Happening from 2007. But now if you look up that lyric, the only thing that comes up is Drake, with no trace of either originals, unless you do some dating. 5 years later, Drake's Canadian accent all of a sudden emerged. This began with a short film called Jungle, released right before If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. Then all of a sudden, Drake was running through the six with his woes. And being from Toronto became his new entire personality, which is fine because he obviously is from Toronto, but where were the six in his woes for the last 5 years? But maybe it's fine. Maybe Drake was just getting back to his roots. Maybe he was finally gonna stop stealing other culture and embrace his own. Nope. because next up is Drake's Caribbean accent. It's also worth noting that a lot of people think that Drake is over-exaggerating his involvement in Toronto black culture and how much he was involved in that growing up and that entire persona as well. A year later, in 2016, Drake introduced his fake Caribbean accent. In his collab Work with Rihanna, Drake felt 100% comfortable to do a full-blown Caribbean accent. And you might think it's full-blown, but it would get even worse in the coming years. Rihanna and Drake first collabed on What's My Name, while Drake was still pretending to be from the South. They also collabed in 2011 on Take Care, and in the parts where Drake sings, you can sense a slight Caribbean accent because he's collabing with Rihanna, but other than that, he's still acting like he's from the South in the rest of the rapping parts in the song. Then a few months later, Views came out, and Drake was out of nowhere, straight from the islands, in Controlla, One Dance, and Too Good. Like, why all of a sudden he's like, Controlla? All of a sudden, he was the third member of the Island Boys. I also sense a Nigerian accent on Controlla when he says, them girls, they just wanna take my money. If you don't remember in 2016, when Controlla was released, artists like Jadena, who is Nigerian American, were blowing up, and this is most likely why Drake felt the sudden urge to make these songs. All of a sudden, he was African one day and Caribbean the next. And you probably remember the 2015 song Classic Man by Jadena, which ironically features Kendrick Lamar on the remix. Jadena's accent was also rumored to be played up a lot, and some people say it's okay for Drake to speak in a Caribbean accent because the population of Toronto is 71% Jamaican, but that makes absolutely no sense and might be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard to defend Drake. Also, people defend Drake for using a southern accent because his dad's from Tennessee, but these exact same people will use the excuse that it's okay for Drake to use a Caribbean accent because there's a lot of Jamaican people in Toronto. But which one is it? You can't naturally be rubbed off into basically being a cosplay of Lil Wayne and then also naturally be rubbed off into being Jamaican. In 2017 and 2018, Drake all of a sudden became British. Since 2011, Drake was vocal about being a huge fan of the crime drama series Top Boy. In 2017, Drake basically started morphing into the exact Netflix description of this show Top Boy, which is 2 seasoned drug dealers return to the gritty streets of London, but their pursuit of money and power is threatened by a young and ruthless hustler. The entire album More Life is Drake faking a London or Caribbean accent, and I personally find that extremely wrong. I don't understand why Drake couldn't have just collabed with the artist from London and paid homage to the London music scene and showed his appreciation without faking the accent himself. This album features really well-known artists from the UK, and now we're getting into the PDF allegations territory because Georgia Smith was also on this album at 19, and Drake dated her briefly the same year when he was 30, but that's a whole nother video. Just like Drake took on Rihanna's accent, I don't understand why he needed to take on British and Caribbean accents in More Life. He literally has a song on this album called Madiba Rhythm instead of Rhythm, where he goes back to being Caribbean. I guess Drake had a light bulb moment midway through the album and realized he can incorporate his fake Caribbean accent again, since a lot of Caribbean people moved to the UK. And again, I have a lot of family in St. Lucia, and a lot of these relatives moved to the UK, originally being from St. Lucia. But you don't see me pulling a Drake and using a British or St. Lucian accent just because I have family in both countries. And keep in mind, Drake doesn't have family in either. Drake's song Teenage Fever on this album is also really not beating any PDF allegations. Next, we have Drake's 2018 Spanish accent. Drake's Spanish persona can be traced back to his 2014 feature on Romeo Santos' Odio and him calling himself Champagne Papi. In Odio, it's crazy because Drake was speaking Spanish and using his fake southern accent at the same time. It's fine to speak Spanish in order to collab with a Latin artist, and other artists do this all the time. Like for example, when Normani was in Fifth Harmony, all the other girls spoke Spanish, so she learned Spanish so that she could also sing in the Spanish versions of their songs. But in Drake's case, I really draw the line when he just changes his accent at the drop of a hat to stay on top of the music industry. Like when Bad Bunny started rising in the industry, Drake made sure to collab on Bad Bunny's Mia in 2018. A lot of artists jump on waves, but not to the extent that Drake does. Drake sees Caribbean music and Afrobeats on the rise, so he all of a sudden fakes being West Indian one day and Nigerian the next. Then he's threatened by the rise of grime, so he all of a sudden makes an entire album magically being from London. Then his spot is threatened by Bad Bunny, so he downloads Duolingo. The Duolingo owl is probably still trying to bust down Drake's door as we speak. And come to think of it, maybe that's another double entendre when on Over, Drake said, I could teach you how to speak my language, Rosetta Stone, or Drake probably said Stone to sound southern. On the song Enjoy Yourself, Pop Smoke didn't pretend to be magically from Latin America. Why? Because he was actually proud of his New York origins. He didn't need to all of a sudden fake a Colombian accent because Karol G is on the song with him, speaking Spanish. Another crazy accent Drake did was in 2019 on the Party Next Door song Loyal. And this used to be one of my favorite songs, but now in hindsight, it's just laughable. All because of Drake's, again, fake Caribbean accent. In this song, we see Drake miraculously having Jamaican and Trinidadian roots all of a sudden, just like Party Next Door does. Like Drake. You sound ridiculous. Answer me the question, why does Drake say, true, wait, true, you're a star in my head. Is it true? You no need to raise war with my friends, no. Like Drake, what are you doing? You can literally say, true, no need to raise war with my friends. Or just do that in a Canadian accent. It's fine. If you left your moms in the hood, bro. Now we know why Drake was creeping down the block and making it right. Because he and Kim Kardashian are both notorious for jumping on the wave and culture of whatever is popular at the time, even if it means being culture vultures and stealing entire likenesses. Crap down the block. Hey, made it right. And ironically, Kim Kardashian is literally in the song I mentioned at the beginning where it sounds like a cry for help from Drake. I didn't come this far just to come this far and not be happy. I saw it on the internet. As someone who's half black and half white and grew up around 99% white people, but hung out with only my mom's side of the family and her friends who were black, Drake colonizing black culture has always really grinded my gears and made me extremely uncomfy. I used to be a Drake fan, like I said, but after you hear Drake fake his 10th accent of the week, it really gets old. And when I first said Drake faking an accent, the first example that probably came into your head was, I need a one dance, got an Aussie in my hands. And if you Google this song, it'll tell you that the song has a Latin inspiration or Afrobeat, but an article entitled A Brief History of Drake's Accents from hotnewhiphop.com validated what I knew was true. Drake is faking a Caribbean accent in the song. And this might tie into his unhealthy obsession with Rihanna, who's from Barbados, but who knows? And like I said, my mom is from St. Lucia, but imagine tomorrow I became a rapper or R&B singer and all of a sudden deleted all these YouTube videos so no one would have a trace of my real accent and started using a thick St. Lucian accent to try to overtake Tyla and other people on the rise because Tyla's South African image threatened me. And all of a sudden, I need to do everything in my power to be seen as more cool and exotic than Tyla. And also, for some reason, I randomly started completely from left field, started talking, acting, and dressing like I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, when I'm not from there either. I don't really know where that ties in, Drake. And then I start flip-flopping between the two every few months. And then randomly start becoming British. The thought of me doing something like Drake gives me the heebie-jeebies. And that is why I absolutely hate that Drake does this and has been doing this for years. And I'm genuinely disturbed at the fact that Drake can do all this culture stealing and never himself get the heebie-jeebies once, and he sleeps perfectly well at night knowing exactly what he's doing. And I'm extremely happy that he's finally being called out for it because it was getting to the point of ridiculous. Because who knows what accent he would have faked next if he was never called out. Now, what is Drake guilty of besides stealing all these different accents, cultures, and putting do-rags on his son? Well, first of all, you probably remember in 2023 when Drake started looking like this. From Drake's heart hairstyle to his OVO owl braids, the internet has talked a lot about Drake's different hairstyles. But this one he wore while hanging out with Kevin Durant really had people in uproar, and not for the right reasons. People were in uproar on Twitter because they were just calling Drake corny for this hairstyle, but they should have been in uproar because once again he was leeching and stealing. But this time from an artist named Smino. It took majority of people an extremely long time to realize this Drake hairstyle that had so much buzz around it was also stolen. But once Kendrick called Drake a colonizer, people started to realize things like this more and more evidence was coming out of the woodwork day by day. In May 2024, someone tweeted, when Drake colonized Smino's hairstyle, crying laughing face. Some people clocked this right away though, before Kendrick even said anything. Just look at this video from a TikToker named Ashanti from October 2023.
I just don't understand, how does Drake wake up every day and not be embarrassed that he's cosplaying a whole nother grown man? It's so embarrassing. Like, the secondhand embarrassment I've been getting from Drake lately, like these past 2 months, is just, it's so uncomfortable. Like, I just want him to be silent and mysterious.
And this TikTok from August 2023.
Okay.
And this was August, the same month that Drake first did the Smino hairstyle. So yeah, not everyone was fooled, Drake. In May of this year, a TikToker named Amina pointed out how Drake actually exposed himself by not even copying Smino properly. Since Drake is a culture vulture, he didn't understand when he did this hairstyle publicity stunt that he was wearing salon getting your hair done / setting your hair clips, not the actual styled hair accessory clips that Smino was wearing.
Okay, y'all remember when Drake was wearing them little hair clips in his hair or whatever, but they weren't the I'm finished hair clips, they were the I'm getting ready to go sit under the dryer hair clips, and everyone was like, oh, he trying to look like Smino, but he could never because Smino was actually wearing the hair clips with the design with the word on it, because those are the hair clips that you wear when your hair is actually finished versus the hair clips that you wear when you're setting your hair, blah 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 blah. If you know about hair and you know about hair techniques and hair tools and hair clips, you know what I'm talking about. Sorry not sorry, if you're a black woman, you probably also know what I'm talking about, whether you do hair or not. Sorry not sorry, I feel like it's little small nuances like those that if you know, you know, if you get it, you get it, but if you don't understand, you're gonna be like, what? That's literally like he's wearing what he's supposed to. It looked like, and I'm not gonna fake it, I saw this in real life and I thought to myself once, like, wow, it really do just be small tiny nuances sometimes, you know? And when you pick up on it and when you see it and when you peep it, it's just like, dang, like I would never. But it's also because I wasn't raised to, but however, and it just be a little bit mind boggling how just let me stop. Anyway.
Now let's get into all of Drake's stolen lines and flow. Now you might think he's just getting inspiration from other artists, and I understand that. You might think he's referencing or paying homage, but when so many of your songs are referencing, quote, to the point that new generations forget the original or have never even heard the original, that's when it's a problem. One of the biggest examples of this that comes to my head is when I say the song I'm a Believer from the end of Shrek. 99% of people probably think that this is an original song by Smash Mouth, but it's actually from a band called the Monkees from 1966. And the jury is pretty much still out on this entire concept. And in rap, it's called interpolation. Some people like it, some people hate it, and some people love it.
Drake is a thief of lyrics and flows. Drake once paid somebody a cool $100,000 for borrowing their lyrics in 2014, after he rapped almost the exact same bars on YG's track, Who Do You Love? Drake was straight up copying there. I mean, at least he threw them a little bag. However, these other accusations have been more for biting flows rather than lyrics, such as back in 2017 when XXXTentacion accused him of stealing his flow.
So he plays this shit, I hear da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, what? As soon as it started, like I knew he was getting that.
Drake was called out for using a very similar flow and beat as X's Look at Me on his track KMT. In 2014, Dram claimed that Drake jacked his Cha-Cha song on his Diamond record Hotline Bling, which even had Billboard thinking it was an official Cha-Cha remix. We've also heard Drake recycle Big Sean's Supa Dupa flow on his Forever verse, although Drake did give him credit for it. We also know he famously stole Soulja Boy's flow, word for word, bar for bar. Is it stealing? Is it interpolation? Is it a sample? Is it just showing love? Sometimes I can't even tell.
Sometimes Drake is just referencing and not stealing, and I'll give him that. For example, SZA and Drake weren't stealing each other's lyrics when they both said, you like it when I be aggressive, you like when I say to you. Okay, Drake didn't say that. SZA said this in Normal Girl, but in Control It, then Drake says, you like it when I be aggressive. Drake and SZA dated before both of these songs came out, so who knows who came up with that melody first and that lyric. Control It came out in 2016 and Normal Girl in 2017, but songs can be in the works for years before they're released, so who really knows which one came first, the chicken or the egg? And either way, this is just a reference, not really stealing, whether it's SZA referencing Drake or Drake referencing SZA. I've always been a SZA superfan, but ever since that SZA and Drake collab when they're like whipped and chained you like American slaves, homie still doubled down calling us some slaves, and SZA wasn't and SZA was an accomplice. And I've also seen a lot of videos calling SZA a pathological liar, so but according to SZA, she ain't got no guilt about it. Another example of a simple reference is 21 Savage saying, I'm a savage. Slap it. Just like Megan Thee Stallion in Rich Flex. The listener is clearly supposed to know that this is a reference to Megan Thee Stallion and not stealing from Megan Thee Stallion. Like his name is 21 Savage, you know, like Savage Megan Thee Stallion. But again, if you Google, tell me what really going on, it doesn't show D4L or even Soulja Boy. It shows Drake. Drake. Now let's Google I'm a Savage. Yep, it shows Megan Thee Stallion, not 21 Savage or Drake. This is a good indicator of something being a reference and not stolen. Another example of actually paying homage and not stealing is when in 2011 Drake said, I'm in the building and I'm feeling myself, rest in peace, Mac Dre, on the motto. And as you can see, he actually said Mac Dre and is referencing and name dropping him in Mac Dre's 2004 song, Feeling Myself. But Drake has an extremely extensive list of interpolated lyrics and flows where he's done this countless times without name dropping like with the Mac Dre thing. And he never says exactly where he got them from. The opinion on whether these other instances are stealing or referencing is extremely divided, so let me know your opinion in the comments on interpolation in rap, especially when the person who recreates it completely wipes out the original and there's no trace left. By the way, if you've never heard the term interpolation, it means using a melody or portions of a melody, often with modified lyrics, from a previously recorded song, but re-recording the melody instead of directly sampling it. Drake also samples a lot, but actually credits the original, so I'll also give him that. But other people wouldn't agree with this statement because some people think the entire song and concept for Hotline Bling was stolen from I Like to Cha-Cha. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're right. In Nice for What, arguably one of Drake's most viral songs, he samples X Factor by Lauryn Hill, and thankfully, he actually credits Lauryn Hill in the artist credits of Nice for What, and he says Lauryn Hill in all caps. Cry for me, you said you'd die for me. You got a baby Benz, high school pics, you would... Huh? Wait a second. That's the song where he says high school pics, you was even bad then. Ick. Now, the elephant in the room is that even if Drake did steal a lot of lyrics and flows and not really interpolate them, just stole them, he allegedly uses his ghostwriter most of the time, or multiple ghostwriters. So technically his ghostwriters most likely stole these songs and not really Drake if you consider it stealing. But still, at the end of the day, Drake gave them the okay. One of Drake's alleged previous ghostwriters was an artist named Daylight. Kendrick pretty much confirmed this when on Like That, he said to Drake, "Your best work is a light pack." Daylight allegedly wrote Back to Back, and that's why Kendrick says, "Back to Back, I like that record," on Euphoria. DJ Head said that he knows Daylight and knows he didn't write Back to Back, but Back to Back was a diss to Meek Mill, but in a diss written by Daylight directed at Drake called Cats Out of the Bag from 2016, Daylight says, "Drizzy say he gon' cut me that check for Body and Meek too. If I'm creating these bodies, he body, what I'ma speak to. I've been quiet for too long, and I've been crying for too long, and I've been dying for too long. I'm getting tired." So it sounds pretty up in the air. Maybe there'll be legal trouble if anyone confirms anything, which is why DJ Head said that Daylight didn't write Back to Back, but who knows. And also, Drake's flow sounds exactly like Daylight's, so that pretty much is enough for me to convince me that he was Drake's ghostwriter in the past. And Drake pretty much copied Daylight's entire persona as well. Another TikToker pointed out all the personalities Drake has stolen. First Lil Wayne, then Future, then 21 Savage. And Kendrick Lamar also talks about this in Not Like Us. And it's pretty crazy because this TikToker posted this right before Not Like Us dropped, so her comments started going crazy after the drop, saying, "OMG, Kendrick just dropped Not Like Us talking about this exact thing." In her TikTok, she talks about how no one could ever really prove what Drake was doing, because for example, pretending to be like Future could have just been a coincidence, but once Drake stole 21 Savage's likeness, it was painfully obvious what he was doing because it was such an extreme jump from Drake then and Drake now. Kind of like his Smino hairstyle was so obviously stolen because of how out there it was for Drake. It was so obvious that the whole 21 Savage Drake was all orchestrated.
So it seems that a lot of people are confused on where the Drake hate, or why a lot of people have switched up on Drake lately, has come from. The thing that Drake did wrong this time is he took the wrong person's personality. And I'm about to explain what I mean by that. So since Drake has came into the industry, he's always attached himself to different artists. He'll take on their personality, ride their way for a little bit, and move on to the next. And I feel like at first, we didn't really clock him doing this. It was more of like, oh, Drake always putting somebody on. We didn't really realize, like, okay, he's just taking their personality and then moving on to the next. Now, at the very beginning, of course, he's signed to Young Money, and it's hard to take Lil Wayne's personality because he's very eclectic. But what Drake did do is he started rapping about like sipping lean or always been in the strip club, and you know damn well Drake wasn't doing that in Toronto. But still, nobody's going to clock him about that because, I mean, that's not that big of a deal. Another time this has worked for him is when he takes Future's personality. Now, Future was a risky one, but the reason why it works is because Future has never truly portrayed himself as somebody that was in the field for real. I feel like we know that Future is a hood nigga, like he's a hustler. I feel like Future is more of the top shotter. He got the people that's going to go out and do his dirty work. He's the type of person that's going to make the money, take care of the family, take care of everything, and have a whole bunch of women in rotation. So it was also easy for Drake to get away with taking Future's personality. But where he fucked up is when he took 21 Savage's personality. To my knowledge, nobody has come out and said that 21 Savage is capping about, his previous lifestyle, him being in the streets and stuff. So for Drake to take on 21 Savage's personality, he's talking about knife talk or everybody got a stick, we don't run phase, and growing out braids and just being this character that we have never seen in our lives, it's so easy to clock it now. Because we know for a fact that's not him. And I feel like he took the Savage role even further than 21 Savage himself, just by the fact that he was disrespecting so many black women on the Her Loss album. I still to this day don't understand what made him think that him and 21 Savage needed to do an album, except for him just feeling like he wanted to be more and be seen as more hood. That whole album was full of antics. It was full of him just being bitter towards black women who don't speak on him, who haven't spoken on him, women that he's either had relations with in the past, or women that have curved him. And that is so fucking lame and corny. So now that people are speaking out on it, that's why in 2024, a lot of people are on Kendrick's side or saying like Kendrick winning this battle or whatever, because we see it. If he would have never took on 21 Savage's personality, Drake could have kept being the top guy. We would have never clocked him for, stealing people's personalities. But just taking on that whole persona of 21 Savage when we know damn well that's not you, That's where he lost us. That's where he lost me.
Once Drake went too far and stole the wrong person's personality, people started to look back and realize in hindsight, almost every single personality we've seen from Drake has been stolen. Everything I've talked about so far in this video leads us to the obvious answer. Drake has Arrested Development. Pretty much, Drake is acting like a middle schooler who sees someone else wearing silly bands and all of a sudden needs to wear it to school the next day to feel like they are fitting in. Pretty much what we're seeing in 2024 with the Stanley Cup. Drake sees black artists from around the world and immediately needs to be them to surpass them. I feel like because Drake was raised by his non-black parent, but is now a rapper in an industry dominated by black people, he'll never stop in his pursuit of trying to prove to everyone that he's black. It's almost like Drake is trying to heal his inner child who wasn't black enough to fit in, but also wasn't white enough to fit in either. This is all well and good until you realize it's not all well and good, because Drake is so busy holding on to his teenage years and trying to prove these things that he's constantly dating and hanging around actual teenagers and early 20-year-olds. And this leads to PDF allegations. Drake is now 37 years old. And remember when everyone was like, what is a 30-something-year-old doing talking to Millie Bobby Brown when she's like 14? The Arrested Development could explain this, but it's not a good excuse, because whether you have Arrested Development or not, no man should be talking to a 14-year-old. Drake is now 37 years old. He has definitely missed the boat on living out his teenage dreams. He really needs to grow up already and stop hanging out with and dealing with literal minors and barely just legal women. And no, I do not feel bad for Drake in the slightest, and I feel like he's pretty much missed the boat on forgiveness after all of these weird allegations. Because a lot of them aren't even allegations, they have concrete evidence, but for some reason, people still justify it. Even before any of the Kendrick beef, a TikToker named B.A. Bad Boy uploaded a TikTok about how he feels like Drake desperately needs an intervention because of all of Drake's obvious Arrested Development.
Drake is crying for help. I don't know if y'all realize it or not, but bro really needs somebody in his corner that is going to allow him the space to process whatever the hell is going on with him. Like, bro, you looking at 40, tough. Stop. You are at the top of the hip hop game. Nobody can really fool with you right now, and you leaking. What's going on? You should not be that close to 40 making songs containing the lyrics of my ex. Wasn't he saying in another song, take me out the club, take me off the map, take me off the market, come and rescue me? And the way I'm seeing it right now, dude is the problem. Let's see, Rihanna's with A$AP Rocky, Serena's with that billionaire, none of the strippers and IG models wanted to stick around. You can't keep making these songs like everybody else is the problem but you. Bro, you've done everything that needs to be done. Go take a break, go sit down, get yourself together.
Being close to 40 and still rapping about your ex is not normal. It's time for Drake to finally let go of Courtney from Hooters on P Street. Drake wrote an entire album called Her Loss, most likely directed at 21-year-old girls who left him on red on Snapchat after taking all his money and riding on his yachts.
It's like, I don't know, man. These girls, they just want to like hang out and get high and stuff and talk about like IG drama, and there's like more to life than that, man. Hey, Drake, how old was this girl? Oh, dude, she was like 25, and you're 36 with a kid. That's true. Do you not think that like maybe some of these problems could be avoided by like, I don't know, like dating somebody your age? No.
If Drake truly didn't want to deal with women acting childish, maybe he should stop going for women who were literally just children a couple of years ago. The lyrics of Slime You Out featuring SZA are just way too weird. The TikToker B.A. Bad Boy's caption says, Drake, I think it's time for an intervention. Bro is the only rapper that seems like he's having a horrible time after making it to the top. But he exists in such an Arrested Development now that you can see how little he's grown as a person. In my opinion, everything Drake does and raps about is typical behavior of a depressed person. Like all that partying and all that clubbing pretty much leads me to conclude that he's empty inside. And when he was like, take me out the club, take me out the trap, take me out the market, take me off the map. Was that SSIDL? Take you off the map, rescue me. There is a lot more evidence of Drake being the master of plagiarism, Arrested Development, and fake accents, so comment below any other evidence I might have missed in this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for all the support on my last video where I exposed BetterHelp. If you missed that video, make sure to watch that one next. And also remember to like this video if you enjoyed it because it really helps my channel out. And let me know what you think of this entire insane Drake situation in the comments below. And also make sure to subscribe because we're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. And this also helps you stay up to date on my recent uploads. And I'll see you all in my next video.